Can I have that question, please? Thank you. All right, so as council knows, we received a question from the jurors. If we find not guilty on 2 charges but can't agree on 1 charge, is it a hung jury on all 3 charges or just 1 charge? I got some input from the defense at sidebar, essentially saying if we could just ignore it. We can't ignore it. To me, it's a theoretical question, and we don't answer theoretical questions. I tell the jurors that they're not to be concerned with the consequences of their verdict, and that's exactly what they're doing here. So I would propose just writing simply, this is not a question I can answer on this, and sending it back.
The defense position is not, certainly not the position for it. I agree, we can't ignore your question. However, I think that it is apropos, given the timing of when that question came in, literally before the court had answered the other 3 note card questions. I think that it would be appropriate to send a quick note just asking them, given the fact that there's some clarity in your other questions, does this answer your question? In other words, can you proceed without any further input by the court regarding that second question?
So that made sense initially, but why ask them, do I really need to answer it, to then tell them I'm not answering it?
Because I think at some point, they need to know what the law is. It's a reporting question. In other words, I don't see it as theoretical, as the court indicated. I see it a little bit differently, which is what are our options? And the options are built in the law, not in theory. If they come back with a verdict on more than 1 count, but they're hung on a separate count, they are to report those 2 counts, whatever counts they came to a verdict on.
So that's for a later time, right? So this is at this point.
Right.
It's premature, it's hypothetical, it's theoretical. I understand your point. I think I disagree with you at this point. It may be something later. The way the question's worded, if I find this, if we do this. I'll hear from the Commonwealth.
We agree it's consequence related. Your first suggestion, I think, is most appropriate, and we would endorse that.
Yeah, I'm going to do that at this time, Mr. Jackson. I'm not going to have a back and forth with them. I'm simply going to say, because it's true, it's the law, that this is not a question I can answer.
Your Honor, I would strongly suggest that we find some other way. If that question continues to remain, then they're not going to ask that question. I don't think the court can say, or should say, I can't answer the question, because the court can answer that question. The court absolutely can answer it. I would simply say, this question is not before the court without further information, or something like that. Not the court can't answer that question, because if that question remains in their minds, we're going to end up in the exact same position that we were in last year.
There are other steps that can be taken to perhaps prevent that.
Whatever those steps are, I think the first step down the wrong path is to say, throw our hands up and say, well, we can't answer that question. Well, we know we can answer that question.
So I don't know if I want to put you in an uncomfortable position, Ms. Giannetti. I'm inclined to answer the question the way I stated.
Could we have 2 minutes to confer with counsel, Your Honor?
1 minute.
How about 1 minute? You guys are 10 minutes late.
We just need 1 minute. Thank you.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Holy mackerel.
Are we having deja vu right now? Is this Groundhog Day? Are we having the same trial over again?
Wow.
I see Vinnie Politan coming up. We got to check in and get your reaction to this, Vinnie. If not guilty on 2 charges, hung on 1, are we hung on the same thing? Why can't the judge answer that?
I don't understand it. This is now insanity at this point. This is like we're back to ground zero where we were at the end of the last trial. All the controversy about the jury not understanding that they can return a verdict on a charge. They don't have to return a verdict on all 3. If they're hung on 1 and they've reached a verdict on 2, that is a verdict. To not answer the question, why don't you want the jury to know? It's hypothetical? Well, hypothetically, they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand because the instructions are not clear.
Vinnie,
Alan
going back to
Jackson
court.
talking again.
Going back to court.
Objection to the court's language that we not answer the question at this time. I would simply ask that the court answer the question as you suggested just now in open court. It's premature to address this question at this time.
No. What do you say, Mr. Brennan? My response was, this is not a question I can answer for the reasons I stated. It's theoretical, and we tell jurors that they cannot be concerned with the consequences of their verdict, and that's exactly what you would be asking me to endorse. What's the Commonwealth's position on the proposed?
I agree with your first suggestion.
Yeah. I'm going to send it in like this. Your objection's noted.
Your Honor, if I could make my record a little bit clearer, the court's indicating that it doesn't answer questions about the consequences of the juror's verdict. That would be punishment. Of course you can't answer a question like that. This is not the consequences of the verdict. It's how do they report a verdict. So I think saying I can't answer this is sending a false message to the jury. If the court would simply indicate this is not appropriate for me to address at this time, that assuages all concerns. Certainly assuages our concerns and it protects Ms. Reed's rights. I think that...
Well, I think what I could add is this is a theoretical question, not a question I can answer. That does the same thing. Is there an objection? I understand, Mr. Jackson.
If you were to add the clause "at this time,"
Is there an objection to me putting this is a theoretical question, not a question I can answer?
No objection.
I don't allow the court to finish writing, but at this point, that is over our objection. I
understand.
I just want to make sure the record is absolutely clear. That's over our objection. I don't think that's an appropriate answer to a very, very clear question that could be answered in an innocuous way that does not affect Ms. Reed's rights.
Okay.
I think this way it does.
Okay, it was a clear question that the defense first told me to ignore. So,
I didn't tell
that.
you to ignore anything, Your Honor.
All right, we are all set. So let's send this in, please.
All right.